In today's video, we're going to build a fret slotting jig for the 3018 CNC. It's a fairly straightforward project overall. Doesn't require many parts. In fact, you may have everything you need to build it laying around. Just a board, 2 of the clamps that came with the CNC, a couple of small horizontal clamps, and a proper end mill. As I continue to broaden the scope of my channel from just doing bass guitar covers, one of the things I intend to do is build bass guitars from scratch. I'm not at the point of doing that yet because I don't have all the tools I need. Along the way, there are certain tools and fixtures I can build myself. This fret slotting jig is one of those tools. So this is the board that we will make up the base of our jig. We're going to go on the computer and design our cut for the slot that holds the fretboard. Basically, we're going to make a pocket that is 3 inches wide in the length of the board, and our fretboard will fit into it. Then we will add horizontal clamps that will hold down the fretboard. Then we will add 2 holes on the corners for mounting the jig to the spool board of the CNC. Make sense? Let's get started. So we're going to be using easel software from Inventables for our design. I use easel a lot for 2-dimensional stuff. It's pretty effective, it's simple, and it's free. For how simple the cuts we're going to be making, easel is the perfect choice. So the first thing to do is change our cut settings. We're going to go with 1,000 millimeter feed rate, 300 millimeter plunge rate, 1 millimeter depth per pass, and 20,000 RPM spindle speed. I know my CNC. I have the upgraded 20,000 RPM spindle and I'm comfortable with these settings. You will have to make adjustments to these for your own CNC. For this cut, we will go with a 1/8 inch flat end mill. The board we will be using for the base is 8 inches in length and 5.5 inches in height. And the thickness makes no difference since we'll be doing a 3 millimeter cut. We're going to use the rectangle tool and set it to 8.5 inches by 2.75 inches. That will encompass the length of our board and then provide enough width for the fretboard to rest in the cut. We will set the depth of cut to 3 millimeters. Make certain you leave the cut path to clear out a pocket. With our rectangle selected, go to Edit and choose Center to Material. Notice as each end of our cut hangs over the actual length of our board. This will ensure a nice clean pocket. It should be like the preview on the screen. Here I'm getting our board mounted in the CNC and ready to cut. We'll get it squared up and zeroed out and then start the cut. Here, I'm marking where the slots on the spool board are so I can drill the holes for the mounting clamps. Here you can see how the jig will be mounted to the spool board. Now I'm marking out the holes to mount the horizontal clamps to the jig. Now I have the fretboard clamped to my bass guitar to mark off the frets. The board is 2.5 inches wide, 24 inches long, and 1/4 inch thick. Exactly the size of a standard 34-inch scale bass. Here's the jig ready to go and our fretboard marked. You can get the basic idea of how it will work once it's attached to the CNC. Now to get it mounted and squared up. For our fret slot cut, we want to keep the same cut setting as far as feed rate, depth per pass, and so on. In the case of this video, I'm making a fretboard for a lined fretless base. So it has no frets, but as a lined fretless, it will have the lines where the frets would be. I need this because I'm not a fretless player, so I've got to cheat. If you are making a fretboard that you will be installing fret wire into, then you will need to use an end mill that is 0.6 millimeters. 0.6 millimeters is the metric equivalent of 0.23 inches, which is the size of the kerf on a standard fretting saw. If you use some other size fret wire, you will have to make adjustments accordingly. 0.6 millimeter end mills are fairly easy to find on Amazon. In my case, I'm just making a lined fretless. I will go with a 1/16 inch end mill to give me lines that are approximately the width of fret wire. It is important to note that we'll be using the line tool for designing this cut. So whatever size end mill you choose, that will be the thickness of the line. So in my case, that will be 1/16 of an inch. If you're using a 0.6 millimeter end mill, then the line thickness will be 0.6 millimeters. So let's use the line tool to make a line. Drag it to whatever length you want. We will make fine adjustments to it. Set it to 2.75 inch length. Our fretboard is 2.5 inches, and we want our cut to clear the fretboard completely with each pass. In my case, I will set a depth of cut to 2.5 millimeters. For standard fret wire, 2 millimeters would probably be fine. Whatever fret wire you use should come with info on how deep to make your slots. We're basically done here other than just moving our cut to 0. So let's set the X to 0 and the Y to 0 and push our cut to the corner. This will ensure that when we zero out our CNC, we know that our cut will just move straight across. And that's that. Now to the fun part. I'm getting the board mounted, and then I will start the process of getting the CNC lined up and zeroed out. I'm using a piece of paper to help zero out the Z-axis. Once the Z is good, then I am setting the X-axis location just a few millimeters to the left of the fretboard to get a clean start for each pass. Then it's just a matter of lining up the mark on the fretboard to the end mill, and then off we go. And just like that, our first fret slot is cut. At 1 millimeter per pass and going 2.5 millimeters deep, the CNC makes 2.5 passes to complete the cut. The cut is nice and clean, very little sanding needed to completely clean it up and be ready to finish. It'd probably be even better if I was using a down cut bit, but this is an up cut bit. Then we pop the clamps, move the fretboard to the next mark, reset the clamps, and start the CNC. After that, it's just rinse and repeat. And there you have it. Took me maybe 7 or 8 minutes to cut all the fret slots on this fretboard. You can get a pretty good rhythm going. It really is quite simple once you've got everything set up and ready to go. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Minimum parts, maximum efficiency considering the alternative ways I could do this. Spending big money on a fretting saw and jig from Stu Mac is not something I will ever be able to afford to do. This will work every bit as good. An added advantage is that you can use the same jig to cut inlay as well, from simple dot markers to the most complicated designs you can imagine and the CNC can cut. I'm probably going to make another video on inlay with this jig and finish up a fretboard as well. So that's going to wrap it up for this one. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. If you did, then you know what to do.